and our players across the league are too often the targets. This is not something any player in this league should have to tolerate.
Do you think Caitlin's being used as a pawn? Caitlin didn't bring racism to the WNBA. This has been happening. And that, I think, is what's been such a shock for all.
All right, take a deep breath and picture this for a moment. Not a casual image. I mean, really let this scene form in your mind. The president of the Indiana Fever, the individual who's supposed to be the strategic brain, the steady hand, the voice of reason at the very top, suddenly steps forward and delivers a set of comments so baffling, so unbelievably short-sighted, that the entire basketball world practically froze mid-sentence. It wasn't just odd. It wasn't just questionable. It was the kind of move that made fans across the country lean in and say, wait, did they actually just say that? Because what he chose to speak on, and more importantly, who he chose to speak about, turned those comments from a simple misstep into a full-blown league-wide aftershock. And that who was none other than the phenomenon herself, Caitlin Clark. The engine, the heartbeat, the spark that revived a franchise teetering on the edge of irrelevance. So when the organization's own president, a person who should be the guardian of the franchise's most valuable asset, made remarks that seemed to downplay, minimize, or even brush aside her monumental importance, well, the reaction was instant, violent, unmistakable, and absolutely deserved, because let's be brutally honest here. When you are the leader of a professional sports organization, there are a lot of things you can get away with, a lot of mistakes you can recover from. But one thing you never do under any circumstance is try to dim the light of the one player who has transformed your entire existence. Caitlin Clark isn't just a star. She isn't just an important player. She is the reason the Fever were reborn, the reason national media returned, the reason fans filled arenas again. She is the gravitational force pulling everything upward. And this executive tried to treat that force like it was optional. So what followed? The eruption was immediate. Fans who have become fiercely protective of Clark did not hesitate for even a second. Analysts, journalists, former players, even rival fan bases jumped into the conversation. Twitter, Instagram, TikTok, you name it, the digital world went red hot. And the tone was unified, powerful, and loud. What are you doing? How could you possibly say that? Do you even understand the gift you have? It didn't feel like normal backlash. It felt like cosmic irony, almost karmic, as if the universe itself stepped in and said, let me remind you who built your momentum. Let me remind you who put this franchise back on the map. Let me remind you who the fans are here for. And that's what makes this whole collapse even more absurd, because when a franchise willingly tries to dim the brilliance of its brightest star, the ripple effects don't stay contained. They spread, they echo, they multiply. And right now, those consequences are already unfolding in real time, publicly, painfully, and embarrassingly. It leaves us with a simple but devastating question. What did the Fever's leadership think was going to happen? Because whatever answer they imagined, it clearly wasn't this.
Continue. There is one thing I want to reset, that we want to reset, and it's the language being used around fans. Fever fans, Caitlin fans, new fans. That actually has to.
What makes this entire fiasco even more staggering is how clearly preventable it was. This wasn't an innocent mistake. This wasn't a poorly phrased comment taken out of context. No, this was a calculated decision at the highest level. Someone, somewhere within the Fever's leadership circle genuinely believed that this strategy, this baffling attempt to broaden the brand by reducing the spotlight on Caitlin Clark, would actually succeed. Just think about how unimaginable that is. A professional franchise sat in a room, discussed their brand strategy in detail, recorded it, reviewed it, and still concluded, yes, let's publish this. This is a brilliant idea. They released a message suggesting that the Fever wanted to build a long-term identity beyond Caitlin Clark, comparing their so-called brand strategy to Apple, as if distancing themselves from their biggest asset was some kind of enlightened corporate vision. But here's the brutally honest truth. None of this was about balance. None of this was about sustainability. And none of this was about brand expansion. This was insecurity masquerading as strategy. This was ego dressed up in corporate jargon. This was a refusal to acknowledge a simple, painful reality. One transcendent player changed everything for them. And rather than embrace it, they tried to pretend it wasn't true. When they claimed the team shouldn't lean too heavily on core players, the message was painfully obvious. They didn't want to admit that their biggest breakthrough in years came from one superstar who single-handedly resurrected their entire existence. They didn't want the public to know that their sudden relevance, ratings, revenue, and recognition were all tied to one name, Caitlin Clark. But hiding the sun doesn't make the world dark. It just makes you look foolish. And now staff members, players, and fans are all watching the organization spin out of control, wondering how the people in charge could possibly misunderstand their own situation this catastrophically. It's not just a mistake anymore. It's a crisis of identity.
Yeah. Did you, when you went and kind of swatted at Caitlin, did you intend to hit her in the eye? And if so, could you just, or if not, either way, could you talk about what happened on that play?
I don't even know why I would intend to hit anybody in the eye. That doesn't even make sense to me. But no, I didn't. I didn't know I hit her, actually. I was trying to make a play on the ball, and I guess I followed through and I hit her. So obviously it's never intentional. That's not even like the type of player that I am. So yeah.
Did you and Marina kind of laugh about it afterwards? It looked like there was later on in the game they caught you guys laughing about it.
No, I just told you I didn't even know I hit her. So I can't laugh about something I didn't know happened.
Now let's break down the shocking lack of awareness behind this controversy. The Fever executive didn't just make a questionable statement. They marched right into the public arena and practically announced to the world, we want to grow and succeed, but we don't want the person responsible for that success to be the center of attention. You can't make this up. Imagine McDonald's holding a press conference saying, we want to be known for more than hamburgers, and then immediately hiding the Big Mac behind the counter. That's exactly how absurd this entire scenario is. Caitlin Clark is the reason for their sold-out games. She is the reason for national media coverage. She is the reason for unprecedented merchandise sales. She is the reason fans who never cared about the Fever now watch every game. And the organization's response? To try to redistribute her spotlight and pretend it was some kind of strategic master plan. Naturally, the fan base didn't accept this quietly. They roared. They flooded social media with frustration and disbelief. Every corner of the internet united in calling out the Fever for being staggeringly out of touch with reality. People weren't just criticizing, they were furious. Because disrespecting a player of Clark's magnitude doesn't just feel wrong. It feels insulting to the fans, to the sport, and to basic logic. The Fever wanted attention. They got it. But instead of praise, they were showered with backlash, mockery, and a tidal wave of anger so overwhelming that it drowned out whatever message they originally intended to deliver. The executive did accomplish something that day, but it was the direct opposite of what they hoped for. Instead of elevating their brand, they exposed their own confusion. Instead of strengthening their identity, they fractured it. And now the entire world is watching how they recover, if they can recover at all.
Obviously, hearing it initially, my visceral reaction was like, that's not good. That doesn't feel good. That feels racist, to be honest.
The fallout from this catastrophic statement wasn't just a ripple. It was a tsunami. Instantly, the sports media universe went into overdrive, dissecting every syllable, analyzing every intonation, and speculating endlessly on intent, consequences, and hidden agendas. But this wasn't simply about words. It was about perception, culture, and raw human emotion colliding head-on with organizational incompetence. Sue Bird, the voice of reason, the seasoned legend whose career spans decades, watched this unfold with a mix of disbelief and controlled fury. Her reputation, built on unshakable integrity and unmatched insight, allowed her to step into this storm with clarity few possess. She didn't just comment. She exposed the underlying rot, the systemic mismanagement, the leadership's failure to grasp the magnitude of Clark's influence, and the very real danger of alienating not only a transcendent player, but also the fans, the community, and the league's credibility. Sue pointed out something chilling. Organizations often fail to recognize that the brilliance of one individual is not a threat. It is the very foundation of growth. Clark's unprecedented impact, the financial surge, the viral visibility, the newfound cultural cachet, was not just a triumph for one player. It was a lifeline for the entire franchise. By attempting to diminish her significance, the Fever leadership had not only insulted her, but had actively endangered their own resurgence. Sue's words reverberated across boardrooms and social media feeds alike. They weren't whispers. They weren't gentle reminders. They were a warning, sharp, clear, and unyielding. Ignore this at your own peril. Fail to recognize the truth, and watch everything you've built crumble.
Disagree with you on Christine Brennan's question being dickish, or she shouldn't have answered it, because it was something that was out there that everybody was talking about. And so she asked the question, and it was a great opportunity for Carrington to, on the record, say, no, I didn't do it. And that's all that happened. So I do disagree with you. I don't think it was a dickish question. I think it was a fine question based on what was going on at the.
As the controversy escalated, fans became warriors of digital discourse. Social media, normally a platform for casual discussion and celebration, transformed into a battlefield. Every post, every tweet, every comment section became an arena where opinions clashed with unprecedented intensity. Bots, algorithms, and hyper-engaged users amplified the narrative, often distorting reality further in the process. The situation became almost Kafkaesque. One casual statement, one mismanaged PR move, snowballed into a full-blown cultural conflict. A previously innocuous comment from a respected figure like Diana Taurasi ignited a chain reaction, unleashing an avalanche of scrutiny and toxic debate. Suddenly, the Fever's actions were not just evaluated, they were dissected, critiqued, and weaponized by an entire ecosystem of sports media, fan communities, and digital commentators. Amid this chaos, Sue Bird emerged as a stabilizing force, calmly navigating the storm. She broke down the dynamics with surgical precision, explaining how a single misjudgment can cascade into catastrophic consequences when fan sentiment, media amplification, and organizational misalignment collide. She articulated the stakes. This wasn't just about basketball, it was about justice, fairness, and the integrity of the league itself. And for those paying attention, it became obvious that no one else within the organization had the foresight or courage to articulate the truth so comprehensively.
It led to the Twitter trolls and bots taking over. And what started there was this narrative of petty, jealous players hating on Caitlin. That's really what happened. That's where it started, that we must just dislike her, that we look at her side-eyed, that we don't want her to come in the WNBA and be successful, that we're hating on her, right? So we're petty.
But the drama wasn't limited to words and opinions. Clark's reality on the court became increasingly complex, personal, and harrowing. Beyond the expected intensity of competition, the rookie phenom faced orchestrated physical and psychological challenges that went far beyond normal gameplay. Strategic fouls, targeted physical plays, and relentless scrutiny created a pressure cooker environment, amplifying stress and testing resilience. Sue Bird, drawing on decades of experience and an unparalleled understanding of league dynamics, highlighted a critical aspect. This wasn't just athletic rivalry. It was deliberate targeting, rooted in envy, systemic bias, and misperception. Every step Clark took on the court became a battleground, a stage where not just skills, but her very presence was scrutinized, misinterpreted, and at times undermined by peers and opponents alike. This level of targeting, Sue emphasized, exposed the broader societal dynamics infiltrating the league. Racism, privilege, and historical inequalities weren't just abstract concepts. They manifested in real time on the hardwood, influencing interactions, decisions, and perceptions. Clark, the rookie sensation, found herself trapped in a maelstrom she neither created nor deserved, and yet the entire ecosystem, teammates, media, and management, was forced to reckon with the consequences.
At any point did I think anybody was playing dirty against Caitlin? Not at any point did I think Caitlin was targeted. And I'm going to stop on that word because what happened was these petty jealousy narratives that got formed. Then when the season started and people saw people blocking Caitlin's shot or picking her up full court, it then became, oh, they're targeting her.
While Clark faced targeted adversity, critics and dissenting voices emerged from within the league itself. Prominent players such as Angel Reese and Alyssa Thomas openly challenged the narrative surrounding Clark, arguing that she benefited from perceived favoritism. Their accusations were sharp, pointed, and highly public, igniting yet another layer of controversy. Sue Bird, ever the voice of reason and unwavering integrity, refused to allow misrepresentation to dominate the narrative. She dissected these critiques with precision, emphasizing that Clark's meteoric rise and overwhelming impact were the result of talent, work ethic, and relentless determination, not privilege or favoritism. Bird's response highlighted an uncomfortable truth. When excellence intersects with race, gender, or perception, distortions arise. Misguided assumptions and unverified critiques can unfairly tarnish reputations, alienate supporters, and destabilize team cohesion. Bird's intervention wasn't just a defense of one player. It was a lesson in leadership, ethics, and the responsibility of seasoned voices to counteract divisive narratives. Her clarity cut through the noise, underscoring the principle that raw talent and hard work cannot and should not be dismissed or diminished due to external perceptions or biases.
All of what I've said led to this group of people being able to push those racist agendas, which really has been, in my opinion, the cause of all of this. And everybody from this moment on has, not everybody, but a lot of people have been operating under the assumption that these narratives, particularly the targeting narrative, is true. And
now, with all forces converging, media scrutiny, fan engagement, internal conflict, and organizational missteps, the Indiana Fever stand at a precipice. Leadership changes, roster adjustments, and strategic recalibrations are imminent. Amber Cox's arrival, the reinstatement of Kelly Kroskoff, and the appointment of a new general manager signal a seismic shift within the franchise. Caitlin Clark remains the epicenter of this transformation, her unparalleled talent and relentless competitive drive serving as both a catalyst and a stabilizing force. The team's trajectory from a mid-tier position to a potential top-4 contender hinges on recognizing and properly harnessing her abilities. Yet the lessons from this tumultuous episode are clear. Misjudging talent, underestimating cultural dynamics, or ignoring fan sentiment can have consequences far beyond a single game or season. Sue Bird's perspective resonates louder than ever. This isn't just basketball. This is about integrity, justice, and accountability. For the Fever, for Clark, and for the league, the message is unambiguous: adapt, respect, and elevate, or risk losing everything that could have been monumental. The next season will not just define games, it will define legacies.